So, let's talk about the Guardians of the Galaxy sequel. The first film was maybe my most favorite in the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe, so I waited very much for the second one. And I watched it, and I hear all these positive comments about it, that maybe it was even better than the first one. So I have to say how I feel about it. I very much like the general message that Peter had to realize who is his real father figure. Of course I liked Yondu's character development. And also the conflict between Peter and Rocket at the beginning of the film. I loved all the scenes with Rex, I think they were hilarious. I didn't feel that he was too much or that his character was not developed enough. And I absolutely loved Baby Groot. And this whole setup that he was like everybody's child. I think this element really made the feeling stronger that this team functioned as a family. And that's about it. There were other good things, but those were more like missed opportunities that turned into mistakes. First time I realized something was off was the scene when Yondu and Rocket tried to escape the ship. I know the audience loved the arrow scene in the first film, so I can imagine it was the producer's first order. More magic arrow action. Well, here it was just too much. Big, epic slow-motion pictures of bad guys flying around and the arrow taking them out. And I just got really bored.
You're right.
This is the case with most of the action scenes of this film. They are too long, they don't have enough conflict, they don't have enough risk. I didn't want to see a copy of the first film, but I have to look at the elements that were working in that one and ask the question, why aren't they working now? I mean, the first film was the coolest thing in the world. So how did this sequel get so lame? The flying around and punching each other in the air was lame the first time in The Matrix Revolution. And it got even worse in Man of Steel a few years ago. But now the director thought it's gonna be a good idea to use it anyway. Well, I don't think it was a good idea. And did you like the scene when the giant Zord Kurt Russell and the giant Pac-Man Peter fights each other? And how about the scene when Gamora picks up that big cannon? I think it was just horrible. I think the first film is so awesome because for every funny scene there is a dramatic one. They go around each other and complete each other. Like the scene when they decide they're gonna fight Ronan, even if they're gonna die. And Gamora says she was living her whole life among enemies. Now she could be happy to die among friends. It's very beautiful. But later, when she complains about the plan, Peter mocks her.
This is a terrible plan.
Hey, you're the one who said you wanted to die among friends.
Another example when Peter dances for Ronan.
Ooh, child, things will get brighter. Listen to these words.
It's a surprisingly silly scene even for that film. But after that comes the biggest, most awesome action drama finale we ever saw.
You said it yourself, bitch. We're the Guardians of the Galaxy.
We see nothing of these polarized, funny, dramatic scenes in the second one. Except maybe one or two times with Rex, but that really wasn't enough, I think. So I think the action scenes are boring because they don't have enough conflict and we never actually feel that our heroes' lives are in danger. And all the other parts of the movie, all they do is talk and talk and talk. Gamora even tells a story about when they were talking. This Hasselhoff conversation could have been interesting, but I don't really understand why do I have to see this scene. Peter really needs some motivation to get to know his father. This was what he wanted to do in his whole life, so I don't think so. It would have been more interesting for me to see that conversation when Peter were drunk and told Gamora about his past. Why couldn't I have seen that one? It's another thing that every revelation and every insight that we could learn, it's said out loud, over-explained, and shoved into our faces.
Sometimes the thing you're searching for your whole life, it's right there by your side all along.
I thought a lot about it, what was the biggest problem deep in its film structure, and I found two things. Let me mention again the first film for reference. At that story's middle point, Ronan finds out our hero's location, and he actually takes the orb from them. And the reason for this is that Drax called him there to fight him. Now Ronan killed Drax's family, so his primary motive is revenge. That's the only reason he joins the team, so he would have a chance to face Ronan. But as things go on, they escape the prison, and they go to try to sell the orb, and they don't want to face Ronan. So Drax gets pissed off and he just simply calls him. Now we see that this is a big mistake, but we also see that from Drax's point of view it was a logical decision. Now in the second film everything is around Ego's plan to use Peter's powers to consume the whole universe or something like that. And it would be much easier for him if he turned Peter to his side. And he works on it very much. He talks hours and hours to convince Peter how great he is. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, he tells Peter he killed his mother. Why? This is the story's big turning point. From now on, Peter wants to fight Ego. And this is the only reason why it happens. So we would have a big turning point. It is not at all logical. It doesn't come from the character's motivation. It actually goes against it. So this turning point is simply forced. And that's why it's shit. And the other problem is why the final action gets so boring. Peter, supposedly the protagonist of this film, doesn't have to face a big dilemma. You see, in the first film, he has to take the stone in his hand to stop Ronan. And it's very likely he would die, but he makes his choice. And when he holds the stone in his hand, accepting his sacrifice, he has to face another choice. Take my hand! Should he die alone to save the others? Or should he accept the one thing he couldn't even do when he was a kid? The reaching hand of someone he loves, letting someone close to him, accepting that he doesn't have to be alone. You see, this is a real choice. In the sequel, Ego says that if Peter kills him, he's gonna be just like everybody else. It's a nice thing that Peter doesn't mind it, but there isn't any dilemma in this. Ever since Peter found out Ego killed his mother, he wanted to stop him. And even if he changed his mind now, he wasn't able to stop the bomb at that point. So we don't really have to worry about anything, just watch the things as they are happening. And it's just boring.
That's a really bad sign.
I know it's not too fair to criticize this film, because the first one was near perfect, and it was a too high expectation for the second one to be similar. But I think the problems I mentioned could have been fixed or made so much better if the creators would have put more effort in the writing. I have to say, I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a gift for movie lovers. I'm glad I could experience the build of this universe from the beginning in the cinemas. And I know there are better and worse movies in it. But ever since Civil War, I have this feeling that the creators' goal is not to make perfect movies anymore. They just want to make good enough movies. And if we respond well to these films, and if we don't want to mention their flaws, and expect better, then the good enough is just gonna be worse and worse.